There is a force inside us that we're taught to avoid. We hide it, numb it, rationalize it away, try to outwork it, or sometimes even pretend it doesn't exist. That force is pain, inner pain, the ache that sits under smiles and between heartbeats. And yet, if you learn to listen, it can become your most precise instrument for change. In this video, we're going to look at the mechanics of that transformation. We're going to speak plainly about what happens when the mind, the body, and the emotional self collide. We'll name the tools, the traps, and the pathways, and we'll reveal how you can turn what once broke you into the engine of your success. If you want a roadmap from struggle to strength, stay with me. This is about existential equipment, the inner tools we all carry, and how the way you manage them will determine the life you build. Every human being shows up in life with a set of internal tools. Think of them as existential equipment. Some are visible, talents, skills, health. Many are invisible, defaults of thinking, emotional reflexes, conditioned reactions, inherited fears. These invisible instruments shape how you respond when life hits. The first step to transforming pain is to inventory your equipment. What habits live in you by default? What automatic responses do you default to under stress? Which mental loops keep replaying, uninvited? Call them out. Name them. When you begin to label the parts of you, the mind that catastrophizes, the body that tenses, the emotion that spirals, you create the possibility for intentional change. Existential equipment is not a fancy phrase, it's a lifesaver. You don't have to invent new tools from scratch. You can learn to rewire what's already present. Thoughts are not mere byproducts of the brain. They are signals, patterns that shape reality when repeated. The human brain is an organ that registers thought, but thought itself often emerges from deeper layers. Memory, conditioning, the narrative you inherited. When you think the same fearful thought over and over, you train your nervous system to respond as if danger is always present. This is where the link between thought and biology becomes obvious. Constant anxious thinking raises cortisol, tightens muscles, shortens breath, and alters digestion. Repeated negative stories can birth real physical complaints. That chain, thought to body, is central to understanding why pain persists. So the question becomes, who is steering your thought? Is your attention free, or are you being driven by old software, preloaded with fear and scarcity? When you learn to witness your thoughts without immediately acting on them, you create a space where new choices arise. O pensamento is not your enemy, it's the lever. Use it wisely. Conflicts and diseases. This is not a headline for alarmism, it's a map. Chronic conflict, whether internal, two desires pulling you in opposite directions, or external, constant friction with people or life circumstances, creates a systemic stress that the body eventually names as disease. Disturbing patterns become what the body translates as threat. The autonomic nervous system moves into defensive mode more often. This leads to inflammation, hormonal imbalances, sleep disruption, and immune compromises. The consequences are far-reaching. What begins as low-grade anxiety can spiral into digestion problems, chronic pain, and exhaustion. We're not suggesting a simplistic one-to-one causality. Life is complex. Disease arises from multiple causes. But we can't ignore the clear evidence that ongoing inner conflict depletes resources and primes the system for illness. Recognize the signal. Conflict is not a punishment, it's data. It tells you where your internal structure is misaligned and where energy is getting stuck. Dystonias and their consequences, in simple terms, chronic tension and its fallout. Tight shoulders, clenched jaw, shallow breathing, restless muscles. These are not just discomfort. They are the body's memory of emotional states. Long-term muscular tension alters posture, reduces flexibility, changes gait, and feeds back into emotional states like irritability and low mood. Imagine living with friction inside your body every hour of the day. The simplest actions become heavier. Decision-making blurs. Creativity fades. Life feels laborious. That's the cost of unchecked dystonia. The way out is not only relaxation techniques, though those help. It's intentional redirection of energy. Learn to transmute tension into movement, into art, into purposeful action. Dystonia transforms when you create a channel for those energies, whether through disciplined breath work, expressive movement, or deliberate work that requires focus and presence. The emotional self, the inner emotional being, is the climate in which all decisions are made. It colors perception. It defines what you see as possible. Two people can face the same circumstances and walk completely different paths depending on their emotional baseline. Emotions have intelligence. They want something. Anger wants boundaries. Sadness wants acknowledgement. Fear wants safety. The problem arises when emotions become reactive and chronic, when fear stays switched on, or grief gets sealed away and turns into avoidance. Learning emotional literacy changes everything. Name the emotion. Where is it felt in the body? What story is it telling? If you can meet an emotion with curiosity rather than resistance, it will begin to soften. The emotional self is not a weakness, it's feedback. Pay attention to it. If you approach pain as a problem to be fixed immediately, you'll bypass its lessons. Pain is an instructor. It points to what is alive in you, what wants tending, and where energy is misdirected. The practice of listening is simple and radical. Pause, breathe, and ask the one honest question. What is this pain asking of me? When you do this repeatedly, you will notice patterns. Perhaps your pain points to unexpressed creativity. Maybe it reveals long-term self-neglect. Maybe it shows you've been trying to win someone else's approval at the cost of your own clarity. Once you map the territory, you can choose how to allocate your energy. Listening without rushing to fix is one of the most productive actions you can take. Be present with the discomfort. Let it speak. Not all pain needs an immediate solution. Some pain wants an attentive witness. Most people live in reactivity, a stimulus, an immediate emotional response, then a behavior. But when you transform pain into leverage, you move from reactivity to response. That involves retraining your nervous system. Practices like focused breath work, grounding exercises, and short, consistent movement sessions send a different message to your physiologic system. You are safe enough to expand. Over time, the sympathetic drive loosens its grip and the parasympathetic gains power. You feel calmer, clearer, more capable of making choices. This is not spiritual fluff. It's retraining hardware. Think of it as firmware updates for the operating system you run on. The thought returns here because the stories you replay are not truth, they're narratives. I'm not good enough. I always fail. I'm not lovable. These are narratives that loop because they were practiced. They feel true because the brain clings to what is familiar. To change your life, you must shift the narrative, not through force, but through steady, consistent counter-evidence. Create a new story through tiny wins. Show your brain proof that something different is possible. Replace catastrophic thinking with curiosity. What if this challenge is a signpost, not a verdict? Over time, the new story settles into habit, and the old loops lose their authority. Pain is energy. Emotions are charge states. When channeled, that energy becomes raw material for creativity, discipline, and breakthroughs. The trick is to redirect rather than deny. Anger can power boundary setting and discipline work. Grief can deepen empathy and artistic expression. Anxiety can focus attention into meticulous preparation. The same intensity that once felt like a burden can become your engine. You don't need to get rid of the charge, you need to give it a constructive path. This is how pain flips to purpose. If pain is the signal, habits are the architecture. What repeated actions shape your daily life? Sleep, movement, nutrition, time management, social boundaries. Each habit is a beam in the structure you live inside. When your habits support recovery and growth, they amplify change. When they sabotage it, they dampen momentum. Start with micro habits. 10 minutes of focused breathing. 15 minutes of movement. A night routine that signals rest. The cumulative effect of small, repeated actions creates an internal climate conducive to thriving. Think of habits like incremental renovations that, over time, change the house of your life. One of the most destructive thought loops is when failure becomes identity. I failed, therefore I am a failure. This zero-sum logic kills possibility. Instead, treat failure as data. What did you learn? What feedback did you receive? How can this information redirect future attempts? Reframe failure as iteration. Entrepreneurs, athletes, artists all rely on iterative failure to discover what works. You can apply that mindset to your relationships, career, and inner life. Your worth is not contingent on a single outcome. Your progress is the aggregate of attempts, reflections, and refinements. Often the earliest indicators of deep trouble are small cracks, a sleep change, a recurring twinge, a thought that repeats with greater intensity. Presence is the ability to notice those cracks before they become chasms. Cultivate presence through daily check-ins. Ask, how am I breathing? Where do I feel tension? What thought keeps recurring? These small scans provide early warning. An early response means smaller interventions, faster recovery, and less collateral damage. Presence is not dramatic. It is consistent. It is the quiet ally of sustainable transformation. Resilience is not the absence of pain. It's the ability to carry pain without surrendering your long-term direction. It's built by practice, facing discomfort, tolerating uncertainty, and returning to your purpose again and again. Resilience also means sourcing support. Even the strongest people need frameworks, mentors, coaches, trusted friends, or therapists who can reflect reality back without distortion. Resilience is both an internal skill and a relational ecology. Pain isolates. Suffering feels like a private experience. Yet alignment, living in accordance with values, purpose, and honest expression, dissolves that isolation. Align your daily choices with what matters to you. Speak truth in small ways. Remove what consistently drains you. Invest in connections that energize you. Alignment is the real antidote to chronic pain. It doesn't eliminate hardship, but it gives hardship meaning and a trajectory. If you want a new outcome, craft a new identity. Not artificially, but intentionally. Who do you want to be in 5 years? What habits, relationships, and practices would that version of you have? Start embodying those traits now. Act in the direction of that identity, even on the days you don't feel like it. Identity work is the scaffolding for lasting change. It reframes pain as an instrument for becoming, not just something to endure. Pain becomes leverage when you stop letting it define you and start letting it refine you. The energy that once bent you can now sharpen you. The discomfort that once pushed you into withdrawal can now be the force that launches you into new expression. Existential equipments are yours to tune. The thought can be trained. Conflicts and diseases can be recognized early and responded to with skill. Dystonias can be redirected and their consequences reversed. The emotional self can be taught to speak constructively. This is not a promise of a pain-free life. It's a promise of a life where pain is used to build something of lasting value. Clarity, resilience, creativity, and alignment. If you're watching this and something in you is aching, listen closely, because that ache is not your downfall, it's your doorway. It's the quiet signal that a part of you, long ignored or long silenced, is finally asking to be seen. Pain doesn't show up to destroy you. It shows up to guide you. It's the whisper before it becomes a scream, the invitation before it becomes a crisis. And hear this with your whole heart. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not a collection of mistakes. You are not doomed to repeat the same patterns, the same fears, the same emptiness. There is something in you, a strength, a clarity, an intelligence that has survived every moment you thought would end you. That same force is alive right now, asking for just one thing: your willingness to look within. Start small, start kindly, start clumsily if you must, but start now. Because every tiny act of awareness shifts your path by degrees you cannot imagine. If this message found you at the right time, stay with this channel. Not because of the algorithm, but because you deserve a space where your inner world is taken seriously. A space where your pain isn't dismissed. A space where your growth is not only possible, it's expected. If this resonated, like, comment, and subscribe, not as a routine action, but as a declaration. A declaration that you're choosing movement over stagnation, practice over passivity, healing over hiding. And in the comments, share one small action you'll take today to redirect your energy. Just one. Because a comment creates accountability, and accountability creates movement, and movement creates a new life. I'm here with you. Let's walk this path together.